Hello everyone, we're still working on chapter 6. We're on lesson 3 of chapter 6 and looks like we are all the way up to completing the worksheet and then working through to find any errors we might make on a worksheet. We started with lesson 1 creating a worksheet, and then we looked in lesson 2 at planning for adjusting entries on a worksheet. And as we're looking through the worksheet, we're all the way up to the step now where we're actually using the worksheet information to go ahead and start to create some balances for some financial statements for our balance sheet and our income statement. So as we start, what we're going to be looking at here is extending the balance sheet account balances on our worksheet. And so we're going to be looking at that trial balance column and the adjustment column, and we're going to be extending the balance out into either the income statement or the balance sheet. Now, financial statements that report the values of assets, liabilities, or owner's equity, this is called the balance sheet, okay? And you're looking at a specific date, and it's the balance sheet. So you can see in the example, we've got cash, which we know to be an asset account, and we extended the debit balance for cash all the way out to the balance sheet. You can see for supplies, we took the debit balance and then we went ahead and looked at the credit adjustment to our debit balance and came up with a total debit balance in our supplies account on the balance sheet of $90. So we're looking at some balance information where we have our debit balances without any adjustments, a couple of debit balances with adjustments, and then our credit balances without adjustments. So that's what we're looking at for the balance sheet account balances. Second, then we have revenue and expenses for any fiscal period. This is the stuff that goes on the income statement. So revenue and expenses, our income statement, asset, liabilities, owner's equity, that's our balance sheet. When we go ahead then and look at our revenue and expense accounts, those then are going to go, and we'll see those on our income statement instead of our balance sheet in terms of the balances. So we're looking at things like sales, our advertising expense, our cash that we're over or short. Those would all be revenue and expense accounts. So you can see there's our sales balance, all of our expense balances that have no adjustments, and then we have a couple of expense balances that have adjustments, and you can see our income statement debit and credit balances. Now, the difference between total revenue and total expenses is how we come up with our net income. So if total revenue is greater than total expenses, we have income. We have net income to the business. So what we would be looking at here is a single rule or a single line underneath all of our expense accounts, and then we total up our net income. And we extend out our net income on our balance sheet using, again, a single rule. And then we have our totals below. And now we're looking at a double rule below our totals. That's how we know we are at the totals and our final total line on any of our worksheets. So when our total revenue and our total expenses, when expenses are greater than revenue, we have a net loss. You can look at here what's going on, how we would calculate and record net loss on a worksheet. Again, we've got our single rule, and you would see our net loss of $300 posted here. So we're extending our net loss from our income statement to our balance sheet. So now we want to talk just a little bit about errors that we make when we're completing a worksheet. There are a couple different kinds of errors that we make. We either have errors in our accounting records, sometimes we make errors when we calculate things, and then sometimes we just put something in the wrong account column. And it's now our balance information is off because it's in the wrong column. So in looking at the errors that we could make, there is a page in your book on page 173 that actually walks you through what you can do if you have different types of errors, and basically it gives you 4 different types of things to think about. If you have errors that are kind of a multiple of one, so a penny, a dime, a dollar, $10, $100, so they're multiples of one like that, most likely you have some kind of addition or math error. So you should just re-add your columns. The second thing, if you're looking at an error and the error can be divided by 2 and there's nothing left over, then what you should do is after you divide by 2, look for some kind of entry that is whatever that number you divided by 2 by. And the example in the book is if the difference between your two columns is 48, you can divide that by 2, then you would look for something in your columns for $24. The third thing that frequently happens is that you have something that's divisible by 9, and if you have something that's divisible by 9 as an error, you might have transposed some numbers. And so you want to just be aware that anything that's divisible by 9 might indicate you transpose numbers. And then finally, if you have a number that is just a weird number and doesn't make sense, now you're looking for something you forgot and an omission. So just to kind of keep those general rules at the top of your head if you have errors. Now, what I'll tell you about the worksheet is that when you're first doing it, it's really easy to make errors. And you want to just make sure that you are very deliberate when you're working on a worksheet, because the kinds of errors you make are often because you're just going too fast, or you're just working and not being very deliberate about what you're doing. So when you're doing a worksheet and you're getting to those financial reports where you're creating a balance sheet and you're creating your income statement, just slow down. I find that often helps when you're first getting started. So to audit our understanding, the question about which balance sheet column is net income recorded on the worksheet. Okay, so we'd be thinking about net income here. Where would we record net loss in terms of the balance sheet? What is the first step to check for errors when the two column totals are not in balance? And I would tell you most frequently, right, the first thing that you're going to do is re-add your columns. One way to check for an error that's caused by transposed numbers, and what term is used to describe an error that occurs when numbers are moved from the right or the left in a column. And that one is actually called slide, and it's because you have taken numbers and they were a slide over to a column where they don't belong. All right, so that is 6.3. That is the worksheet in terms of creating balance sheet and income statements. Those are some financial reports. And from here, you want to go ahead and do the work together and on your own, and make sure you answer the form questions online. Good luck, everyone.